Welcome back, folks, to another botanical bonanza and another episode in the 50 Flowers in 50 Days series. Today, the plant that we are looking at is known as black Medick, nonsuch, or yellow clover, or to give it its Latin name, Medacago lupulina. Say again, Medacago lupulina. Today's small plant with a big tale to tell is in the family Fabaceae, or the Pean Family, or as it was formerly known, the leguminosae, i.e. a legume. Black Medick is a low-lying ground-layer plant which is a pioneer or ruderal species. This small yellow inflorescence consists of even smaller individual florets packed tightly on a raceme. The finer details of the plant morphology are best seen with the magnifying loupe, links in the description. The plant has trifoliate leaves with distinctive venation and a small leaf stalk protruding from the end of each leaflet, that being one of the differentiating factors between lesser trefoil, Trifolium dubium, together with the structure of the seed pod. The seed pods and fruit are another differential character helping separate black Medick from lesser trefoil. Careful attention to the many confusion species such as lesser trefoil should be given throughout. The roots of this little plant contain nodules which provides a subterranean home for a nitrogen fixing bacteria and therefore a symbiotic relationship whereby the bacteria fix the nitrogen from the atmosphere and convert it to a form in the soil that can be used as a nutrient by plants. As pointed out, black Medick has a number of common vernacular names, none the least nonsuch, hop clover, yellow clover, blackhead, blackweed or black clover, and of course is a member of the Pean family, the Fabaceae. The Latin binomial is straightforward, with the prefix Medacago coming from an area in Iran originally noted for its foraging crops such as alfalfa, known as media. The suffix lupulina is reminiscent of a timber wolf in the forest, whereby the yellow flower sits daintily amongst the grass. We turn our attention now to the habitat of the plant. Black Medick is an annual plant of grassland and disturbed places. It is therefore a ruderal or pioneer species with a preference for damp, well-drained, base-rich soils, and can be found on grass or mown areas such as verges, grassland, lawns, meadows or wasteland. Greetings, folks, welcome back to the channel, where today we look at another plant in the 50 Flowers in 50 Days series. And in particular today we are going to look at the habitat which we find the plant of today, which is known as black Medick, nonsuch, or hop trefoil, or in Latin Medacago lupulina, which is one of those Latin names which is actually quite fun to say. But the plant in question is black Medick, and the habitat in which we're finding it is disturbed ground on grassland. And as we can see from a cursory overview of the plant, it is a low-lying ground plant which is usually found prostrate, that is to say lying. This particular specimen is approximately 12 centimetres growing upward. As I say, the plant likes disturbed soil, so it is therefore a pioneer or ruderal species, and it particularly likes this habitat, a habitat which we looked at earlier this spring, known as the shelf roundabout, and it is a disused stone yard with scattered remnants of lime aggregate. As we can see, I've gathered some bits of stone thus. So it's exactly the habitat which black Medick favours well-drained, damped, base-rich soil. And this is the plant here before me, and we're going to go through a tip to stem overview of the plant. Okay folks, in this next little field appraisal, we're going to do a quick stem to toe, so to speak, of the plant anatomy. We'll begin by the roots, and the plant is an annual plant, occasionally a short-lived perennial, and the roots are adventitious, meaning it sends out a rhizome and plods itself into the ground periodically. Where it does persist as a perennial, it has a small taproot, but generally speaking it's an annual plant which has an adventitious root. So that's the root. Moving up the stem is smooth, and we see the first glimpse of the compound leaf, which is trifoliate and consists of a hairy leaf, each with 3 clover-like leaf blades, the rear of which is hairy, and on the end of each lobe there is a tiny little point which distinguishes it from the leaves of the very similar confusion species lesser trefoil. So those are the leaves, hairy, trifoliate, and with a small stalk emerging from the end of the leaf, which is lobate in each of the 3 parts. Moving upwards towards the flower, if we have a look, it's a yellow flower, which consists of a number of little florets in a tight raceme, and they are very, very tiny. Each little flower is between 2 and 5 millimeters in dimension. And what we're going to do is actually illustrate this in larger flowers, either the gorse, the laburnum, or indeed the melliot, which we find quite close by, simply because the flower is much, much bigger than this little tiny flower here. However, in the macro shots, we have managed to catch the flag petal and the keel petal, as you will see in the image. So this is the tiny little plant and the flower, and it's also noteworthy to state that the flower is of the form zygomorphic, basically meaning it has developed a pollinator relationship with insects, specifically long-tongued insects such as bees. And we will illustrate that when we look at the overall morphology or flower structure of plants in the family Fabaceae, or the Pean family. So that's basically a field overview of the plant from root to flower. As you can see, it's a low-lying prostate plant. The genus is what are termed burr clovers, and it's closely related to the sweet clover. So the genus burr clover, sweet clover, and it's a very important plant in meadow for fixing nitrogen into the soil, as we alluded to in the root nodules. As always, before we trek out into the field, we look at the features and characteristics which will enable you to identify and find it. That also given to include the overall flower morphology of the family Fabaceae, which we have not looked at before. The finer details of this tiny plant are best seen with the aid of a magnifying lens or a loupe, and there are further links in the description. The plant is a member of the family Fabaceae or Pean family, and it is an annual or short-lived perennial with spreading adventitious roots. It is a low ground layer, prostate, often hairy plant of a height of up to 8 to 30 inches. It has a large disproportionate flag petal, which is also referred to as a banner or standard petal, which serves to attract pollinators, positioning the insect for optimal placement and subsequently cross-fertilisation. The inflorescence consists of tightly packed racings of yellow flowers, or tiny florets of approximately 2 to 5 millimeters in size. The flowers are notably zygomorphic, and they have, typical of the Fabaceae, 5 petals, typically comprised of the flag petal or banner petal, 2 side petals, and a keel of 2 fused petals containing the reproductive parts of 10 stamens, usually 5 long and 5 short, joined in a tube. It has 1 stigma, 2 lobed, and a long style. Confused? Well, worry not, we will be looking at the flower morphology of the Fabaceae in a few moments. The black seed pods of black Medick are spiral and dehisce like gorse abruptly. The flowering period of this little plant is between April and September. In this episode we are not going to detail the confusion species in depth, other than to point out that the most likely candidate is likely lesser trefoil or trifolium dubium. So folks, let's just have a little look at the overall features and characteristics of the flower morphology of the family Fabaceae. The flowers of the Fabaceae are zygomorphic, that is to say they have one line or plane of symmetry which optimally places an insect for pollination. In other words, the plant knows exactly how to direct and handle the incoming insect. Zygomorphic flowers are not solely unique to the Fabaceae, and we have seen this when we have examined the family Lamiaceae or the mints and the Orchidaceae, all of which have bilateral symmetry. In larger members of the family, we can see the typical flower morphology on plants such as laburnum or gorse, all of which are directly similar to black Medick. The Fabaceae typically consist of 5 petals, an upper large petal which is known as a banner, flag or standard petal, 2 side petals and 2 petals in a fused keel, making a total of 5 petals. The keel typically contains the reproductive parts, notably 10 anthers, usually 5 long and 5 short, and when triggered by an insect, the pollen will be secreted from the end of the keel tube. The flag petal is proportionally larger in black Medick and is folded down the middle, also serving as an awning or hood. The 2 petals of the keel are fused to form a tube wherein the reproductive anthers sit. The keel petal contains pouch-like folds which lodge or lock against a knuckle-like fold on the upper edge of the wing petals, which prevent these stamens from escaping and serves as a spring mechanism when the insect lands. The presence of an insect alighting causes the spring-like arrangement to liberate pollen at the end of the crude petal tube formed by the keel. This spring-like arrangement, unlike that in gorse, is a once-only activity. Let us now allow the plant to speak for itself. Well folks, that's it from me. Thank you very much again for watching. Who could have thought that such a small plant could tell such a tall tale? If you have liked or enjoyed this video or found it interesting or educational, please like, share and subscribe so that this channel may become a success and bring you another in the series. In the meantime, in the words of Maggie, our international symbol of floral appreciation, whatever the weather may be, go outdoors and enjoy it.